Hello everyone. In this short video, we're going to talk about how to take the basic structure of pro versus con or positive versus negative perspectives, right? Opposing viewpoints, and turn them into a wide range of perspectives or arguments relative to a topic so that we can elevate our scores for both the individual research report and the individual written argument in AP seminar. Both of these written assessments have elements of the rubric that require the student to demonstrate that they have gathered evidence from a range of perspectives. Now, the most basic structure that most of us understand is the positive versus negative or pro versus con. So let's take a look at what that looks like in its most basic form. I will use the example of homework policies. So one group of experts says homework policies should not change, and another group says homework policies should change. Now, technically, both of these are different perspectives. They are arguments about what should or should not happen relative to the subject. So they are different perspectives, but this is not enough to earn a high score. The AP reader is looking for a range of perspectives. So if all of my sources or all of my experts simply build on this idea that homework should not change or homework should change without explaining various arguments for each of those positions, I'm blocked. I can't get a higher score on that row of the rubric. So how do I take this basic structure of us versus them or pro versus con and elevate it to a range of perspectives? Looking at the exact same topic, let's see how a student could elevate those. So what we need to do is to begin to group different perspectives within each of these umbrella topics. So let's take our argument that we don't want to change the homework policy, right? We can find plenty of experts, both in high schools and outside of high schools, arguing for why we don't want to change the homework policy. But to present a range, what I need to do is bring in experts who are saying we shouldn't change it because, and then having different arguments or perspectives as to why we shouldn't change it. We don't want to change homework policy because it establishes the opportunity for students to practice their skills. We don't want to change the homework policy because it provides for an opportunity for differentiation of instruction, so students that are at various levels of performance are getting the practice and the assistance that they need to meet where they are. It gives students the opportunity to produce extra credit. We don't want to change the homework policy because it is a necessary part of test preparation, or we don't want to change the homework policy because it provides for extra instructional time because there just isn't enough time in the classroom. If I have experts related to each one of these, now what I have in my section of my paper about not changing the homework policy is that I have 5 different perspectives. And what I want to do is I want to group them within my paper and talk about how they relate to each other. What are their similarities and what are their differences? Their similarity is they think we should stay with the current approach to homework, but they all have a different reason why. And we can talk about how they support each other. For example, skill practice and test prep obviously relate to each other. Extra instructional time and differentiation, there's an opportunity to talk about how those two support each other. So I could have a whole section of my individual research report where all of the experts that are connected by not wanting to change the homework policy are all grouped together, and then I can clearly identify that I have a range of perspectives by talking about their similarities and their differences, and that helps me to establish a range of perspectives relative to not changing the homework policy. I'm then going to repeat that process for my group of experts or my evidence related to changing the homework policy. Here's where I want to bring everybody together who does want to make changes to the status quo, and maybe they want to say that it creates a negative environment for the development of mental health, or it doesn't provide enough opportunity to rest, which has a negative impact on the mental health of students, which can lead to burnout both physically and emotionally and mentally. Maybe I have some experts who think it is unethical for teachers to assign work outside of the school day and especially on breaks. So we're talking about the ethics of how much time the school should be able to demand from families when the students aren't in school. Or we could talk about those people who want to present evidence that it hurts grades, that because students don't have the time or the energy or the opportunity to do the homework, what we do is it creates a circumstance where a group of kids are going to have negative grades because they can't get the work done, which then obviously connects to the idea that it's inequitable. Not every student has the same resources of time and support and serenity at home. And so what I've done here is I've grabbed all these experts who have different perspectives or arguments as to why we need to change the homework policy, and I've placed them together. Once again, make those connections. How do they connect to each other? What are their similarities? What are their differences? So now I have two different sections of each of my papers, whether it's my individual research report or my individual written argument, where I've taken all of the experts and the evidence that presents a particular argument. Once again, don't change homework policy. I'm going to take all of my experts that relate to each other there, and I'm going to put them in one section of my paper. Or, yes, let's change the homework policy, and I'm going to take all of my experts related to that and place them together. And how do I communicate that it's a range of perspectives? I bring in that connective language talking about their similarities and their differences. And then once I move from those two sections of the paper, I can move towards a conclusion where I talk about the relationships between the people who don't want to change it and the people who do want to change it. Where are their similarities and differences? And by doing this, I will guarantee a high score relative to this skill of demonstrating multiple perspectives as they relate to a topic. Once again, we want to move from just the binary positive and negative or pro and con and talk about a range. Why do people oppose this? Why do people support this? What are their various arguments and how do they relate to each other? If I do that, then I'm going to guarantee that my score will be improved in both my individual research report and my individual written argument. Not only on multiple perspectives, but in order to demonstrate this skill, I have to pull a lot of evidence from a range of sources. And so what I'm going to have is even more opportunities to demonstrate evidence from credible and relevant sources. So it's also going to help me on other rows of the rubric as well in both of those assessments. By grouping your evidence from credible sources to create a range of perspectives, you elevate your score from low to high.